Stop scrolling and take a deep breath. In a 2026 world that moves way too fast, there is nothing more healing than going back to the exact living room couch where we first watched The Golden Girls. From Hollywood royalty to quiet, beautiful lives far from the cameras, the journeys of this legendary cast will genuinely move you. Let's pull back the curtain and see where the cast of The Golden Girls truly is in 2026. Number 1, we have Betty White as Rose Nylund. Born on January 17, 1922, Betty was 63 years old when The Golden Girls first aired in 1985. She passed away peacefully in her sleep on December 31, 2021, at the remarkable age of 99, just 17 days short of what would have been her 100th birthday. Now, let us talk about why Rose Nylund was so much more than comic relief. On the surface, Rose was the sweet, naive farm girl from St. Olaf, Minnesota, whose rambling stories about her hometown made absolutely no sense to anyone. And that was the genius. Rose taught us that kindness is not weakness. In a world full of cynicism, she reminded us that seeing the good in people is a superpower, not a flaw. Every time Rose walked into that kitchen with her gentle smile and a wild tale about her Uncle Nunzio, or a festival called the Day of the Wheat, she healed something in us we did not even know was broken. Here is a piece of trivia that will blow your mind. Betty White was actually offered the role of Blanche first, but because she had already played the flirtatious Sue Ann Nivens on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, the producers swapped her to play Rose, the innocent one, and television history was made. Also, Betty was a natural brunette who dyed her hair blonde for the role. Betty White's career spanned an astonishing 8 decades in show business. After The Golden Girls ended, she continued to light up screens well into her 90s, starring in Hot in Cleveland, hosting Saturday Night Live at age 88 after a fan-driven Facebook campaign, and voicing a character in Toy Story 4. She was also a tireless champion for animal welfare throughout her entire life. Her warmth was not an act. It was who she was. She may be gone from our living rooms, but her magic lives on in every single rerun. Number 2, we have Bea Arthur as Dorothy Zbornak. Born Bernice Frankel on May 13, 1922 in New York City, Bea was 63 years old when the show premiered. She passed away on April 25, 2009 at the age of 86. Dorothy Zbornak was the anchor of that Miami household, and honestly, she was the anchor of our hearts. Tall, sharp-witted, and devastatingly honest, Dorothy was the woman who said what everyone was thinking but nobody had the courage to say out loud. She taught an entire generation, especially women, that intelligence is beautiful, that standing your ground is noble, and that you do not need anyone's approval to be extraordinary. When Dorothy rolled her eyes at one of Rose's stories or delivered a razor-sharp one-liner to Blanche, we did not just laugh. We felt seen. Here's something beautiful that not many people know. Before Hollywood, Bea Arthur served in the United States Marine Corps during World War II, making her one of the first women to enlist. She served as a truck driver and typist. That same quiet, iron strength she carried in uniform, she brought it to every single role she ever played. After leaving The Golden Girls in 1992, Bea returned to her first love, the stage. She created a celebrated one-woman show called Bea Arthur on Broadway, Just Between Friends, and received a Tony nomination for it in 2002. She was also a deeply generous soul. After her passing, it was revealed that she had bequeathed $300,000 to the Ali Forney Center, a New York City organization that provides housing for homeless LGBTQ+ youth. The center later named a residence in her honor, the B. Arthur Residence, which opened in 2017. Her legacy is not just laughter. It is shelter. It is courage. It is love made tangible. Number 3, we have Rue McClanahan as Blanche Devereaux. Born Eddie Rue McClanahan on February 21, 1934 in Healdton, Oklahoma, Rue was 51 years old when the show began, making her the youngest of the 4 leads by over a decade. She passed away on June 3, 2010, at the age of 76. Oh, Blanche, where do we even begin? Blanche Devereaux was the self-proclaimed Southern belle who believed that age was just a number and that romance had no expiration date. But beneath all the flirtation and the fabulous outfits was something profoundly healing. Blanche taught us to love ourselves unapologetically. In a culture that told women over 50 to sit down and be invisible, Blanche stood up, put on her best dress, and said, "Not today, honey." She was revolutionary without even trying to be. Here is a wonderful piece of trivia. Rue's contract for the Golden Girls included a clause that allowed her to keep every single outfit she wore on the show. And she did. She wore them as her everyday clothes for years afterward. That is how deeply she became Blanche. Fun fact, it was Rue's own idea to give Blanche a Southern accent. The original script did not call for one. That creative choice transformed the character into one of the most iconic women in television history. After the Golden Girls, Rue continued to work in theater and television. She replaced Carol Shelley as Madame Morrible in the Broadway musical Wicked in 2005. She graduated cum laude from the University of Tulsa and was a lifelong advocate for animal rights and cancer awareness, having personally overcome breast cancer in the late 90s with remarkable grace. Rue showed us that glamour and grit can live in the same heart. If you thought those stories were moving, wait until you see who's coming up next. This next cast member's journey behind the scenes will absolutely surprise you. Number 4, we have Herb Edelman as Stanley Zbornak, Dorothy's lovably infuriating ex-husband. Born on November 5, 1933 in Brooklyn, New York, Herb was 51 when he first appeared on the show. He passed away on July 21, 1996, at the age of 62. Now, Stanley Zbornak was the man everybody loved to hate, and secretly loved to love. He was the bumbling, balding, toupee-wearing ex-husband who kept showing up at Blanche's door like a boomerang that Dorothy could never quite throw far enough. But here is the emotional truth that made Stan work. Despite all the jokes and the frustration, you could see that deep down, Stan still cared about Dorothy. And Dorothy, despite everything, still had a soft spot for him. Their dynamic taught us that forgiveness is messy, complicated, and deeply human. Before the Golden Girls, Herb was already a respected character actor. He appeared in the film version of Neil Simon's The Odd Couple in 1968 as Murray the Cop, and in Barefoot in the Park on both stage and screen. He also had a notable recurring role on Saint Elsewhere. Standing at 6 feet 5 inches tall, Herb had a commanding physical presence, but always played with a gentle, self-deprecating warmth that made every scene better. He earned 2 Emmy Award nominations for his work on The Golden Girls, a testament to just how much he elevated every episode he appeared in. Herb passed away from emphysema in 1996, but his 26 episodes as Stan remain some of the most rewatchable moments in the entire series. Every time Stan walked through that door, a little piece of comedy gold walked in with him. Number 5, we have Harold Gould as Miles Weber, Rose's gentle and devoted boyfriend. Born Harold Vernon Goldstein on December 10, 1923 in Schenectady, New York, Harold was 61 when the show debuted. He passed away on September 11, 2010, at the age of 86. Miles Weber was the kind of man you wished existed in real life. Kind, patient, intellectual, and completely smitten with Rose in the most wholesome way possible. Their love story was tender without being saccharine, and it gave audiences something rare on television, a portrayal of mature romance that felt genuine and earned. What many viewers never knew is that Harold Gould was himself a deeply intellectual man. He earned a PhD in theater from Cornell University and spent years as a drama professor at the University of California, Riverside, before becoming a full-time actor at the age of 37. He appeared in over 300 television shows, 20 major films, including The Sting, alongside Robert Redford and Paul Newman, and over 100 stage plays across a career spanning nearly 50 years. Harold also holds a remarkable piece of television trivia. He originally played Howard Cunningham in the pilot for Happy Days, but when production was delayed, he honored a prior stage commitment, and the role went to Tom Bosley. Imagine, he could have been one of TV's most famous fathers, but his integrity led him elsewhere. He was married to his wife Leah for 60 years until his passing. 5 Emmy nominations, hundreds of roles, one extraordinary life lived with elegance and purpose. Number 6, we have Sid Melton as Salvadore Petrillo, Sophia's beloved late husband, who appeared only in flashback scenes and dream sequences. Born Sidney Meltzer on May 22, 1917 in Brooklyn, New York, Sid was 68 when he first appeared on the show. He lived a wonderfully long life and passed away on November 2, 2011, at the magnificent age of 94. Sal Petrillo may have been a ghost on the show, literally only appearing in memories and dreams, but every single one of those scenes was pure gold. The flashbacks of Sal and Sophia's marriage painted a picture of imperfect, messy, deeply real love. He gambled, he argued, he forgot anniversaries. But he also brought Sophia her favorite chocolates when no one was looking and told her she was always beautiful to him. That is what real love looks like, and Sid Melton played it with such tender humanity. Sid had one of the longest careers in Hollywood, spanning nearly 60 years and about 140 film and television projects. He was best known for playing Alf Monroe on Green Acres and Ichabod Icky Mudd on Captain Midnight. Standing only 5 feet 3 inches tall, he had a physical comedy presence that was larger than life. He passed away peacefully from pneumonia at 94. A career spanning from the golden age of Hollywood to the golden years of the Golden Girls. What a life. While some cast members graced the screen for decades, our next star's behind-the-scenes story is one of the most inspiring you will hear today. Number 7, we have Bill Deena as Uncle Angelo, Sophia's eccentric and lovable brother. Born William Seth Mary on October 5, 1924 in Quincy, Massachusetts, Bill was 60 when the show started. He passed away on June 15, 2017, at the age of 92. Uncle Angelo was the character who walked into the Miami house pretending to be a priest, and the audience absolutely ate it up. With his exaggerated Italian accent and his hilarious stories about Sicilian life, Angelo brought a dose of old-world charm that perfectly complemented Sophia's sharp wit. Their sibling dynamic, bickering one moment, fiercely protective the next, was a mirror of real Italian family life, and it resonated with viewers across every culture. Here is a fascinating piece of trivia. Bill Deena was actually of Hungarian Jewish descent, not Italian at all. He took his stage name Deena from his mother's first name, Deena, because he felt Sathmary was difficult for audiences to pronounce. Before the Golden Girls, he was already a comedy legend. He created the beloved character Jose Jimenez, a heavily accented Bolivian, which he performed on The Steve Allen Show beginning in 1959. The character became so popular that real NASA astronauts adopted the name as an inside joke. Bill was also a gifted writer. He penned the famous All in the Family episode featuring Sammy Davis Jr. After retiring from performing, he dedicated his later years to creating the American Comedy Archives, preserving interviews with comedy legends like Phyllis Diller, Bob Newhart, and Don Knotts. He found love late in life and was survived by his wife Evie, to whom he was married for 36 years. A man who spent his life making others laugh, and then spent his twilight years making sure that laughter would never be forgotten. That is a legacy. Number 8, we have Monte Markham as Clayton Hollingsworth, Blanche's gay younger brother. Born on June 21, 1935 in Manatee County, Florida. Monte was 53 when he first appeared on the show in 1988, and today, in 2026, he is 90 years old, still standing tall, still creating, and still reminding us that a life well lived has no retirement age. Now, Clayton Hollingsworth only appeared in 2 episodes, but those 2 episodes changed television. In Scared Straight, which aired in December 1988, Clayton comes to visit Blanche and, after a failed blind date with a woman, confesses to Rose that he is gay. When he finally tells Blanche, the scene between brother and sister is raw, honest, and heartbreaking. Then, 3 years later, in Sister of the Bride, Clayton returns with even bigger news. He wants to marry his partner, Doug. In 1991, on network primetime television, the Golden Girls depicted a gay commitment ceremony with dignity, love, and zero caricature. That was not just ahead of its time. That was courageous. And Monte Markham was the perfect actor to carry that weight. He played Clayton not as a symbol or a statement, but as a human being, a man who loved his sister, feared her rejection, and simply wanted to live his truth. The quiet vulnerability he brought to those scenes is the reason they still make people cry 35 years later. Here is something extraordinary about Monte Markham's real life. Before he ever stepped in front of a camera, he served 10 years as an officer in the United States Coast Guard. He then earned a master's degree in theater from the University of Georgia. His career spans over 6 decades, from his dual roles in The Second 100 Years to starring as Captain Don Thorpe on Baywatch from 1989 to 1992, to his Broadway debut in Irene alongside Debbie Reynolds, for which he won the prestigious Theatre World Award. But what makes Monte's story truly special is what happened after the spotlight. In 1992, together with his wife Claire, to whom he has been married since 1961, over 60 years, and their son Jason, Monte founded an independent production company called Perpetual Motion Films. He went on to produce, direct, and narrate over 150 hours of documentary programming for the History Channel and A&E, including the landmark series The Great Ships and the inaugural biographies for A&E's biography series. He even became the first American filmmaker to film aboard a Russian Typhoon-class submarine at its secret Arctic base. And he never stopped acting. In 2015, Monte returned to the screen with a memorable role in the indie horror film We Are Still Here, proving that at 80 years old, he could still command a scene with the same presence he brought to Clayton Hollingsworth 3 decades earlier. He has continued to take on projects well into his late 80s, including voice work for the video game Starfield in 2023. At 90 years old, he remains active, creative, and deeply in love with the craft that has defined his life. When asked to sum up his career, Monte once said simply, "There is very little that I have not done." And he earned every word of that. 2 episodes, 1 unforgettable character, a lifetime of extraordinary work. That is Monte Markham. Now, if you think we have covered every surprise, think again. The stories coming up next are the ones that truly show how life after the spotlight can be just as extraordinary as life under it. Number 9, we have Scott Jacoby as Michael Zbornak, Dorothy's traveling musician son. Born on November 26, 1956 in Chicago, Illinois, Scott was 28 when the show began. Today, in 2026, he is 69 years old, carrying his years with quiet dignity. Michael Zbornak was the son Dorothy loved fiercely, but could not always understand. As a musician who chose passion over stability, Michael represented every child who took a different path than their parents expected, and every parent who learned to love them anyway. The scenes between Dorothy and Michael were some of the show's most emotionally grounded moments. Scott Jacoby had actually been a critically acclaimed young actor long before the Golden Girls. At just 16 years old, he won a Primetime Emmy Award in 1973 for his performance in the television movie That Certain Summer, making him one of the youngest Emmy winners in history at the time. He also starred in the cult horror film The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane alongside Jodie Foster. After the Golden Girls, Scott gradually stepped away from the constant demands of Hollywood. He transitioned behind the camera, working in music composition and production. They've chosen a beautifully private life away from the spotlight, and we respect that journey entirely. Not every hero needs a marquee. Some simply choose to live their art quietly, and that takes its own kind of courage. Number 10, we have Deena Freeman as Kate Zbornak-Griffiths, Dorothy's daughter. Born on February 11, 1956 in Palo Alto, California, Deena was 31 when she appeared on the show in 1987. Today, in 2026, she is 70 years old and living proof that the most meaningful act in Hollywood is not always the one on screen. Kate Zbornak-Griffiths only appeared in 1 episode, Season 2's Son-in-Law Dearest, but what an episode it was. Kate arrives in Miami, and Dorothy discovers that her daughter has been secretly reconnecting with Stan, the father Dorothy still cannot forgive. And here is what made that episode so emotionally complex. While Dorothy had cut Stan out of her life for his betrayals, Kate chose a different path. She chose to understand. She chose to extend grace to a flawed father, not because he deserved it, but because holding on to anger was costing her more than letting go. That one episode quietly told an entire generation of viewers that forgiveness is not about the person who hurt you. It is about freeing yourself. The scene between B. Arthur and Deena Freeman, mother and daughter sitting at that kitchen table, one woman who could not forgive and one who chose to try, is one of the most underrated emotional moments in the entire series. Deena matched B. Arthur beat for beat in that scene. And if you know anything about acting opposite B. Arthur, you know that is no small feat. Now, here is where Deena Freeman's story becomes truly inspiring. Before the Golden Girls, she was already a working actress, cast as a regular on the ABC sitcom Too Close for Comfort, playing Ted Knight's rebel niece, April. She guest starred on shows like Newhart and Crazy Like a Fox. But what many people do not know is that your children have probably heard her voice without ever knowing her name. As a voiceover artist, Deena contributed to Pixar films, including Monsters, Inc., Buzz Lightyear, and The Incredibles. She was also honored by the Screen Actors Guild for her extraordinary body of work in television commercials. She was, for years, the quintessential American mom you saw on every channel. But here is the chapter of Deena's life that deserves the biggest spotlight of all. After decades in front of the camera, Deena made a choice that echoes the very spirit of the Golden Girls. She became a teacher. Today, she runs an acting studio in Los Angeles, where she coaches kids and teenagers, passing on everything she learned from a lifetime in the business to the next generation of dreamers. In 2004, she and her husband David Brandes, a producer and writer, co-founded the Jewish Children's Theater, a space where young people could discover the transformative power of storytelling. Deena is still married to David, a partnership of nearly 4 decades. Their 2 daughters, Aviva and Noah Brandes, have both followed their mother into acting. 3 generations of women, all telling stories, all keeping the dream alive. From playing B. Arthur's daughter to raising real-life daughters who carry her torch, Deena Freeman traded Hollywood's spotlight for something even brighter, a classroom full of children learning that their voice matters. And that, right there, is the most Golden Girl energy of all. Honoring the heartbeat. But we cannot complete this journey without honoring the true heartbeat of the show. Estelle Getty. Born Estelle Schur on July 25, 1923, on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, New York, to Polish Jewish immigrant parents who worked in the glass business. Estelle was 62 years old when she was cast as Sophia Petrillo, and here is the beautiful irony that makes you smile every time. She was actually 1 year younger than B. Arthur, who played her daughter Dorothy. Every single taping, Estelle sat in a makeup chair for hours while artists aged her with wigs, prosthetics, and orthopedic shoes to transform her into the 80-year-old Sicilian firecracker we all fell in love with. And what a transformation it was. Sophia Petrillo was not just a character. She was a force of nature. With her straw handbag, her withering one-liners, and her legendary, picture it, Sicily, 1922 stories, Sophia became the beating heart of the Golden Girls. She taught us that wisdom does not come with a filter. She taught us that the smallest person in the room can have the biggest voice. And she taught us that a mother's love, fierce, imperfect, sometimes embarrassing, is the most powerful thing on earth. But Estelle's real story is even more inspiring than Sophia's. For over 40 years, she struggled as an unknown stage actress in New York, working as a secretary during the day so she could audition at night, raising 2 sons with her husband, Arthur Edelman, and never, not once, giving up on her dream. Her breakthrough finally came in 1982 at the age of 58, when Harvey Fierstein cast her as Mrs. Beckoff in Torch Song Trilogy. On Broadway, a role he had written specifically with her in mind. That performance led directly to the audition that changed her life. When she first read for Sophia, the producers told her she was too young. So Estelle went home, put on a gray wig, old age makeup, and a dowdy polyester dress, marched back in, and made NBC understand that she was Sophia. In 1988, she won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series. She received 7 consecutive Emmy nominations for the role. The little girl from the Lower East Side who dreamed of vaudeville had finally, spectacularly, arrived. After The Golden Girls ended, Estelle appeared in films like Stuart Little and Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. But in the early 2000s, her health began to decline. She was eventually diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. On July 22, 2008, Estelle passed away at her home in Hollywood, just 3 days before her 85th birthday. Her co-stars mourned her deeply. Rue McClanahan told the press that Sophia would always be with us. Betty White said that although Estelle had moved on, Sophia never would. And B. Arthur, who would follow her just 9 months later, said simply, "Our mother-daughter relationship was one of the greatest comic duos ever, and I will miss her." They may be gone, but their magic is eternal, living on in every rerun, every quote, and every smile they brought to our childhood living rooms. All right, Golden Girls family, before you go, let us have some fun together. Trivia fan route. Here's a question only a true fan can answer. Over the 7 seasons of the show, the girls consumed over 100 cheesecakes around that kitchen table. But here's the twist. Which of these 2 statements is true? Option A. B. Arthur loved cheesecakes so much she took leftover slices home after every taping. Or option B. B. Arthur actually hated cheesecake in real life and was rarely seen taking a single bite on camera. Drop your answer in the comments. Living room roll call. Let's do a quick living room roll call. What exact year were you born? And how old were you when you first experienced this masterpiece? Whether you caught it live in 1985 or discovered it on streaming in 2024, every generation of fan matters. Tell us your story. The empty couch. And finally, here is the beautiful truth. We grew up right alongside this cast. If you could go back in time to the exact living room where you first watched The Golden Girls, who would you want sitting on the couch next to you one more time? A grandmother who introduced you to the show? A parent who is no longer here? A friend who always laughed the loudest? Honor your loved ones in the comments below and subscribe to keep our golden memories alive. Thank you for being a friend.